Okay, thank you, Shrabastee, for that awesome talk, and thank you to the organizers for letting me discuss this good read. I want to make a couple of comments about the paper, but just to kind of draw our attention to the big question here, which is what is the effect of a platform's monetization strategy, both on the supply side and the demand side? And the authors study one particular type of monetization, which is how do we monetize this particular promotional feature of the platform. And I'll talk a little bit more about why that distinction is important. Like Nikhil's paper, the results are not obvious because you could see on one side, monetization could lead to filtering out lower quality supply side, which could help consumers make better choices, better matches. But as the authors find, unfortunately, that's not the case. Monetization is actually reducing variety and diversity on the platform, which is also leading to somewhat suboptimal consumer ratings on the demand side. So just to quickly summarize, what the authors do is they use the setting of the giveaways promotional program on Goodreads. They collect lots of data, 2 years pre, 2 years post, the change in policy when giveaways became a paid program. On the supply side, they show pre and post analysis of the composition of types of publishers, types of books, types of authors that are represented within the giveaways program. On the demand side, they then look at average ratings as well as number of reviews for books. Not only doing a pre-post giveaway, pre-post monetization analysis, but also going beyond that to find a really nice set of controlled books, which can help us benchmark these effects. And the controlled books, as you can imagine, are not part of the giveaway. The findings overall show that the platform on the supply side becomes less diverse. There's less number of campaigns, particularly less of the Indian self-published publishers and less of female authors, which I know Shrabastee didn't emphasize much today, but in the paper, they show that female authors are now less represented in giveaways, and also niche genres like poetry and psychology actually become less represented. On the demand side, which I found the results are very interesting, consumers are posting more reviews, but at the same time, their ratings on average are worse, and they attribute this to a product mismatch effect. So overall, really nice paper, nice setting. I used to run a self-publishing house at one point. So for me, this was great to read. Really cool data. What I liked in this empirical setup is that the authors made an effort to show a lot of transparent model-free evidence to help us understand the data. It's also very ambitious in that they're trying to tackle both the supply and the demand side, reminding me of canonical two-sided direct and cross-network effect type of papers in video game setting or e-commerce like Alibaba, some of Puneet's work. So I think they've been ambitious about it, and they've gone beyond just the main effects to also tackle the mechanisms, particularly on the demand side, using text analysis. So my comments are going to be 3 themes that I'm going to try to cover in the next 10 minutes. Where is this paper in the literature? I have a lot of comments about the positioning. What else would I like to see? A lot of stuff on the analysis identification issues we've talked about, and then why we should care and what are some broader implications? Where can we go from here? So where is this paper in the literature? Again, the authors have been ambitious. In the paper, they're discussing 4 very rich streams of work on digitization of cultural products, on two-sided platforms, supply side effects, and also consumer rating. So when I see this, I think of the digitization of cultural products as more the context. This isn't a paper about ebooks versus physical books. In fact, most books in their setting, almost 94% are physical books. So I think the paper can benefit from sharpening the position. The key action here really is the platform strategy. Unfortunately for the authors, there is a lot of work that looks at how platform strategies impact diversity. Fortunately for the authors, most of that work is looking at personalization algorithms and recommender systems. So there is a contribution that monetization impacting diversity could be something novel here. And I'll talk more about that. And on the demand and supply side, I would love to see more on how is this diversity really affecting consumer ratings if that's the case, because there are some claims in the paper about this, and I know some questions came up, but the review data doesn't truly get to our users finding that, oh, I love to read maybe female Indian authors, and now I'm not finding enough female Indian authors represented on the platform. So I would love to see some more connection there. So just to put the paper in context, really nicely covering canonical two-sided platform literature. I think there is an opportunity to expand and use the monetization stuff more, particularly when you think about how do platforms most commonly monetize. It's usually through upgrades. So whether it's product upgrades with paid mobile apps or even, Ken and Seung's new paper on ChatGPT, it would be nice to leverage that body of work. The key piece here is diversity being impacted by monetization. And so most work in general that has looked at platforms like Spotify has shown that recommended systems in general make diversity worse off. And the Anderson et al. Paper goes on to show that then consumers don't actually stay with the platform in the long run if there is less diversity. So it makes this paper very important. So what is so novel about this particular paper? I think two things. First, monetization's impact on diversity is not really well studied, but we have to be careful here because diversity on the platform is different from diversity in the promotional program. On the consumer side, there's also some interesting contribution we can make here by looking at implications for reviews and ratings. In fact, I could envision a full paper which just explores the demand side more, maybe the IPT effect on the demand side, explained by some of these supply side mechanisms. So that could be another alternative positioning. So what else I'd like to see more of? I'm going to talk about a couple of supply side and demand side identification challenges here as well. And there is some opportunity from within the data to get closer to causality. So if you look at the supply side equation, we're mostly comparing post and pre-monetization. So the pre period is serving as a baseline. I think there's an opportunity here to do a little bit more, particularly as we talked about a lot of comments, Anya, Puneet, which publishers are deciding what extent to participate. So not only are they selecting the books, but also the number of copies. And I know in footnote 9 and the figure Shrabastee showed, the authors have really nicely argued that the quality of books and authors is not different when you look at the pre-monetization set and the post-monetization set. But one incentive to give away more copies in the giveaways program could also be to get rid of inventory. Because a lot of times publishers also struggle if the author has a new book, they may have slow-moving inventory. So it is quite possible in a competing explanation that lower quality books may be given away in higher copies, which is something the authors can easily check in their data. I have lots of suggestions on this. I also have an instrumental variable idea, which you may have to test a little bit more. But I think that Michelangelo does a great job in his Airbnb paper, which the idea is interacting exposure, which may differ across publishers with the time. And so you could think of exposure here as how many of my competing publishers or how many of my competing genres have also been impacted by this policy. On the demand side, the authors have many, many checks, many great specifications. My preferred one is actually the Callaway Santa Ana estimator. I think for this main specification, my struggle was that the post giveaway, this is not actually completely exogenous because the timing of joining a giveaway is also selected by a publisher or even specifically to the book. If the book is generating a lot of buzz in the market, I may be more likely to use it for a giveaway. And the other problem here could be, which the authors acknowledge nicely in the paper, this specification only gets us to the intent to treat effect, which is coming from everybody who is maybe not entered the giveaway. Maybe they entered, like Carl said, or they didn't win. So are they just disgruntled readers, which could be another explanation. So my preferred specification is the one Shrabastee emphasized in her talk. However, the challenge with this, as with most quasi-experiments, including some of my own papers that have suffered, is this interference problem, where the control group is not really clean. And so you could do maybe some not so great ideas that I've tried to do. I haven't been that successful. You could probably try to see, is the control group directly being impacted by looking at the raw data? You could also probably see if different cohorts of giveaways that happened together, if you do the raw plot for them, how do they look? So literally just taking this plot, and right now it's covering a lot of ground. It's looking at all the giveaways that entered when it was paid versus unpaid, and taking the difference from their control set, which could be unique to those books. So could you take these two lines and split them into two different plots and see if the control group is the one that is getting impacted or not? But it's a not so great idea. Okay, why should we care and what are some broader implications of this work? I think the main important thing I would think about more for implications is what does diversity mean for the platform versus for this promotional feature? Do we care about representation on the platform or just on this feature? And does that necessarily assume that the program is good overall? Also, based on the results, are some types of authors becoming worse off? And more in general, what other platforms are using monetization of this particular type? So we've seen how Amazon's program is different. I tried to look for what are some similar programs. I think Twitch is the one that came closest to meeting these criteria, where they're trying to invite partners who can also promote themselves as their live streamers. But at the same time, Twitch is being very kind of almost shameless that we only want to invite people who already have a large audience, which makes me think, do they really care about diversity? They probably just want popular participants in this program. So just something to think about. A couple of closing slides. Where do we go from here? Shrabastee already kind of resolved my confusion, which was when I entered a giveaway recently, I could only see the number of copies after I signed up for the giveaway. So it seems like there are platform features that can be explored better. And it seems like in your data period, this is happening before. The other thing I've noticed is Giveaway does a great job of marketing. Once you enter one giveaway, you get so many emails from them. So I wonder if exposure to different sets of books through these giveaway emails, as Justin was asking, could also help. And finally, which you've already started working on, is could you do something more on spillovers of giveaway participation on other platforms, particularly in terms of sales rank? So this could be some area for future research. Otherwise, I really enjoyed reading this paper, and thank you for the opportunity to discuss this.